Hi, this is Maria Riegger, your resident Gemini, with another Positive Parenting with Astrology video. Today we're talking about how to connect with your Gemini child for a better, stronger parent-child relationship. So by the end of this video, I will share with you 5 main ways or tools you can use to connect with your Gemini child to improve your relationship and have a overall more peaceful household. And it's important to point out that by connect, we mean create positive moments between you and your child. We always want to strive for more positive moments than negative, a lot more positive moments than negative. And those create the foundational relationship. And when you have that, everything is easier. The children listen to you more easily. They are more cooperative. And overall, you will enjoy your relationship with your children more. And that produces children who grow up into emotionally healthy adults, which is what we're all striving for. So before we begin, please subscribe to my channel and like this video for your free weekly Positive Parenting with Astrology content. If you've been watching for a while, you know that I'm a Gemini. You know, my son has a Gemini moon. My sister has a Gemini moon. So this is kind of one of my areas of expertise and areas that I like to explore. Both Gemini parents, as the parent parenting any child of any zodiac sign, or the parent parenting Gemini children. I've also written a book on Gemini children, and you can get the first 2 chapters for free by clicking in the link in this video description. So let's get to it. First of all, it is essential that you understand kind of the basic nature of the Gemini personality. And I recommend that you watch my video on how to parent Gemini children in general. I go into that in a lot more detail and in even greater detail in my book. So number 1, Gemini is an air sign and a mutable sign. So by mutable, we've talked before about fixed signs and cardinal signs. The fixed signs are intent on maintaining things as they were before, maintaining stability. They deal with transitions. They don't deal with transitions as well as cardinal signs. And the cardinal signs are intent on progressively moving forward, progression, advancement, getting things done. So the mutable signs like Gemini can exhibit either fixed or cardinal traits. And Gemini being an air sign, the nature of air is to cover a lot of ground very quickly and also kind of superficially. They cover a lot of areas, a lot of ground, but not in depth. We talked last week about Scorpio children. Scorpio is all about depth. Gemini is all about kind of breadth of experience. It's a very important thing to remember when you're parenting your Gemini child. Also, Geminis, as the other air signs, approach the world more from a place of logic. Water signs approach the world more from a place of emotion, intuition. Geminis are more detached. Their first line reaction tends to be to curiously consider things from a logical, almost clinical point of view. So remember that when dealing with your Gemini child. Geminis hate to be bored. They have an incredible amount of mental energy. These children are always thinking. It is almost impossible for them to turn their minds off. It causes insomnia and problems going to sleep a lot of the time, even as adults, trust me, ask me how I know. But anyway, Geminis need to have an activity to direct that overwhelming mental energy. They often find like mundane routine tasks to be just so boring they can't even stomach them. Eating is a big one. Like Geminis often get bored with the monotony of sitting down and repetitively eating. Gemini children, I find, need to direct their energy while they're eating, including like they need to eat and read a book, or eat and watch a TV program, or eat and flip through a magazine. Something to consider, so don't be too harsh on your Gemini child when they don't want to finish their dinner or they want to watch a program while they're eating. It's because they have this mental energy they need to direct somewhere. Okay, and the last big thing is that Geminis are always taking in, processing, and evaluating data. And this causes one of the big kind of criticisms and stereotypes about the sign is that they're very indecisive. Gemini people, kids and adults, often tend to change their minds a great deal. But you have to understand why. It's because they are constantly taking in, processing, and evaluating data. And they can tell you something today that is their truth, but tomorrow they've evaluated new data and they've reached a different conclusion about the subject that is also their truth. It's just that they have new data. The problem with this, of course, and I go into detail on this topic in my book, the problem is that there's always more data to be had. And Geminis instinctively know this. So they eventually have to figure out, you have to stop and call the shot at some point, right? And parents can help Gemini children do this. And I explain how to do that in detail in my book. Okay, so now we're going to get into the main tools to connect with your Gemini child. Number one, let them talk. Geminis love to talk. This is a great trait. Gemini moon children, more than Gemini sun children, Gemini moon children love to talk. Talking is like breathing for them because the moon rules your emotional life, and Gemini moon children need to talk things out, talk about their feelings. This is a great thing. You may be overwhelmed with the Gemini's constant chatter, but the fact that they are willing to come talk to the parent all the time is fantastic, because when the kids get older and they become teenagers and they're more reticent and they gravitate more toward their peers and pull away from the parents, you want them to come talk to you. So whenever your Gemini child wants to talk to you about the mundane things that happened that day or whatever, you need to be open and receptive to them. Do not shut them down or shut them out. You can tell them, hey, I'm doing something important. I have to finish it now. I want to hear what you're saying. Just give me a few minutes. That's okay. That teaches them patience, which all Geminis can benefit from. Just don't shut them out. And when you are talking to them, don't carry on a conversation with them and be distracted doing other things or looking at your phone. Look at your child, make eye contact with them, listen, ask questions, show that you are interested in what they have to say. That goes a long way. All right, number two. Remember, we said Geminis hate to be bored. Take your Gemini children to a variety of activities. Geminis have a natural curiosity about everything. They love to explore everything. Take them to a wide range of activities and see what they like to do, and then you can kind of focus in more on the things that they like to do. Also, participate in activities with them. Kids in general love it when parents participate. I cannot tell you how many times I have been at the playground with my kid, and I get on the playground equipment and I play chase with the kids, and I actually play with them. And most of the other parents are sitting on the benches with their heads in their phones. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened. And I'm like the crazy parent who's actually getting on the playground equipment, right? As long as it holds my weight, right? And plays with the kids. Kids love it when parents participate in any activity. So make sure you're actually actively participating in something new, whatever it is. They love that. And doing activities together is a great bonding experience. And boys especially bond through activity and competition. So if you're doing an activity that's kind of has a competitive edge, that's a great way to bond with your sons. Okay, what else? 3, this is huge. Do not overreact when your Gemini child tells you things, even if they tell you things that you consider bad or negative or even concerning. Gemini children are very high strung. It's a sign that is a little bit prone to anxiety. It's the nature of air signs. And Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury, which is a lightning fast planet. Remember, Mercury was the messenger of the gods in Greek mythology, right? Roman mythology. Hermes was Greek, right? So do not overreact when they tell you things. Now, overreaction can often be raising voices, yelling, things like that. But overreacting to your child can also be nonverbal communication. And Geminis are experts in parsing language, and they pick up on language and non-language, nonverbal cues as well. So overreaction can also be things like dramatic hand gestures, dramatic sighing. That's something I used to do. When I was frustrated with my child, I would just unleash this dramatic sigh. And eventually I realized it was causing him anxiety. He would profusely apologize for things he didn't have to apologize for. And I realized it was my nonverbal communication that was making him anxious. So make sure you're not doing those things. Make sure you are listening to your child without reacting. Listen, and then you can respond, but don't react. It's a big distinction there. When you overreact emotionally, Geminis are so high strung, you risk putting them into fight or flight mode. This happened to me as a kid a lot. You may think that's a little dramatic for them to react that way, but they're kids that they live on their nerves. So if they're if you dramatically overreact and make them anxious, it risks putting them in fight or flight. And when kids are in that state, the learning centers of the brain shut down and they cannot retain information. So if you put your kid in an anxious state like that, anything you tell your Gemini child after that, they will not retain because they can't. They're almost in like a survival mode. They feel very triggered, emotionally triggered. This is different from other children. Other children will be able to weather that a little bit better, but air signs live on their nerves. This is a trick to parenting them you have to be very careful about. Okay, so one of the best things you can do for your Gemini child to connect with them is to remain calm whenever they tell you things. Gemini moon children especially, and I talk about this in my video on Gemini moon children, they talk a lot to test things out, to test words out. Not everything coming out of their mouths is 100% their truth. So remember that. Just because your Gemini child says something doesn't mean it's going to be their truth forever or even for the rest of the day. Remember that. It's a sign that likes to talk things out, okay? Sometimes they talk things out because they're kind of experimenting out loud. And they do that first at home with the parents, a safe space. You would hope that safe space is the house, right? The home with the parents. Okay, so also, when Gemini children are listened to by the parents, they feel listened to and heard, they grow up being able to listen to and really hear other people. That's a very important thing to do in relationships, any relationship, okay? So all those are really good reasons why you should be calm when you're listening to things your Gemini child is telling you and not overreact. Listen first, let them finish. Try not to interrupt, although it's hard because Geminis like to talk. It's hard not to interrupt them, right? Try not to interrupt and really listen to what they're saying. Ask questions. Make sure they feel comfortable always talking to you. Okay, another thing is kind of piggybacking on this, Gemini children are very sensitive to pressure. So if you pressure them either to do something or to say something or whatnot, they will often agree with you or tell you what they think you want to hear just to stop the pressure, even if what they tell you is not their truth. So be very careful about that. You don't want to raise a child into an adult who allows themselves to be pushed around by other people because they want to avoid pressure. This is a huge thing that I talk about in my book on Gemini children, about teaching them to stand up for themselves. Okay, so number 4, this is similar to what we just talked about. Do not overreact. This is a different situation. Do not overreact when they do not listen to you or do not hear you or forget to do what you told them to do. We said it earlier, Gemini children live in their heads almost 100% of the time. They are constantly daydreaming and thinking about things and retaining data and processing data and reaching new conclusions and making new decisions. Very often, daily, sometimes hourly, you will tell them something and later they will either forget to do it or claim that you never said what you really said. And that can be frustrating. I'm a Gemini parent and I have a Gemini moon child and I get frustrated. And I know all about this trait. They are not being deliberately disobedient. They really just don't hear you. They are off in their world and they even may say and nod, and they are daydreaming and they don't hear you. So please do not, for the reasons we just talked about, do not emotionally overreact. What can help here is lists. 2 big things. You give your child a written list of things to do so that when they forget, and they will forget, they can consult the list. Number 2 is, for example, if you're always rushing in the weekdays, school mornings or whatever, prepare as much ahead of time as you can. The night before, prepare all the bags. That's what we do. We're not morning people in my house. So we literally grab the bags as we're walking out the door, right? So prepare as much as you can and give them written lists. Instead of telling them verbally, written lists work way better. It will save you a ton of stress when you need your child to do things. Okay. This is the last big thing. We talked earlier about how Geminis hate to be bored, and it's a great idea to encourage them, take them to do all kinds of different activities and participate with them. So as the nature of air that we talked about, air covers a lot of breadth, a lot of ground, but kind of superficially. So Geminis they don't like to be encumbered too much. And Gemini children especially find it hard to commit to like one activity and always do one activity. That was me as a kid. I tried dance, I tried other things, I tried karate, and nothing really stuck until later on when I found things I liked more. So my advice here is to encourage your Gemini child to do activities without forcing them to commit long term. You can find something that maybe they can do for a few weeks or even, a few months, but part of this process is to introduce them to all these things and then kind of sit back and let them select what they like to do. But if you tell them, okay, we're going to sign you up for X class, but it's a year long, you have to do a year because I have to pay for a year and I don't want to waste my money, that's going to put pressure on them. They don't like to commit. They'll probably just not want to do it if rather than face possibly having to do something they don't like. So to the extent that you can, let them try different activities without obliging them to commit long-term to X or Y activity. Okay? And also, this goes without saying, but don't criticize them. Don't criticize your Gemini child and say things like, well, you never stick with any one thing, or why would we bother doing this because you never stick with anything, or you'll eventually get bored and drop the activity. Well, that's the nature of the sign. This is a sign that needs constant intellectual stimulation. Okay, they get bored with just one activity. So if you criticize them like that, you're criticizing the child for being innately how they are. And one thing I say in almost every video is, do not criticize your child for being intrinsically how they are. Accept how they are and help them manage their traits and characteristics. Okay? So eventually Gemini children will find things they're passionate about. I did, so they'll be fine. Part of the process of growing up is getting all these different experiences and then kind of narrowing down what they like to do. Okay, so those are the main five main things I wanted to bring up. I hope you found that helpful. I also wanted to ask you what is the one thing that you would like to know about your Gemini child? Is this something that we didn't mention at the video today? You can post your question in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I would like to remind you that you can get the first 2 chapters of my book on Gemini children totally free by clicking on the link in the video description. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel for your free weekly content. We post weekly videos, sometimes more than once a week if I can get my act together. And next, I highly recommend that you watch my video on how to parent Gemini sun children and how to parent Gemini moon children. And I have a specific video on how to get your Gemini child to help at home, because remember we talked about they are very forgetful when you tell them what to do. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next time.